Hi guys, welcome to another video from Overbite Gaming, and today we are going to be talking about Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood. That's a lot of names. It's a new game developed by Cyanide Studios, and it's based on the World of Darkness. Now, I'll give you a little bit of backstory. I am a huge fan of the World of Darkness. I have the World of Darkness source book, Vampire Requiem, and Mage the Awakening. I've played World of Darkness. I haven't played Vampire. I have read Vampire. I haven't read Mage the Awakening because it is a tome and a half. And Werewolf was one of the ones I always wanted to get, but never did. So I was quite interested in this game. I've played previous World of Darkness games, primarily being Vampire Redemption and Vampire Bloodlines. And I was looking forward to Bloodlines 2. The second trailer for it kind of dulled that interest a lot, and the fact that it's 60 quid. I think I'm going to wait for reviews on that one. But we have Werewolf, which was priced as a AA game basically, so I think it's $35.40. Let me double check that, because I am right here. Yeah, £35. So it's priced in a AA status, and it's a game that I like the idea of more than I like the reality, in complete honesty. So basically, you play Corhol, who's a werewolf, or a garou, which I think is based on loup garou, which is French for werewolf, I think. Don't quote me on that. Snare's the French guy. No, he's not French, but he speaks French. Just clear that up. So I was interested. So you play Corhol, and you, in the prologue, you sort of lose control of your blood rage and kill someone you weren't supposed to, and then you sort of segment. What the hell, segment? You remove yourself from the clan environment because you obviously overcome with grief, and later on you come back to help as your forest is being taken over by a shady oil company called Endron, who are doing all sorts of horrible things. And from there, you sort of infiltrate Endron sort of facilities, and you use your various werewolf powers to help you do this. Now you have 3 forms. You can be a human, which you need to be to operate doors and computers and stuff like that. It also allows you to be incognito as well, so there are certain areas where you can just walk around amongst the Endron staff and then no one bats an eyelid, even though you look like some sort of gypsy hippie biker, which you'd think would raise a few eyebrows in a room full of suited scientists and uniformed military fellas, but no, that's fine. Okay. Your second form is a lupus form, where you are basically just a big wolf, and you use this form to sneak through vents. You move a little bit faster. I haven't really found too much of a use for it, to be fair. I mean, I just use it to go through vents mainly, because a human can sneak as well, and a human draws a lot less attention than a giant wolf. So there's that. And the third form, which is Crinus form, which is your stereotypical Wolfman hybrid that stands up on 2 legs and claws people to death. And that sort of comes in when you do the fighting sections. So you have these 3 gameplay elements, and they're all the same, they're all repetitive. You do get some variety in the bad guys you're fighting, which is nice. So you get guys with shields, you get bigger guys with shields, you get bigger guys with guns, and then as you progress through the game, you encounter more sort of supernatural enemies that are like these twisted blobs, where the humans have been sort of mutated. The combat itself is okay. It's sort of light, heavy attack, your standard fare. You do have 2 stances you can switch between. One is a power stance and the other one is a speed stance. Generally, I just stick to the speed stance. I don't really use the power stance too much unless I accidentally change it, because I think it's like on right 3. So yeah, I think it's right 3, so that changes your stance, and sometimes while I'm swinging the camera around I'll accidentally hit that. The camera itself can be a bit problematic and not show you what you need to see a lot of the time. You do have an execution move, so you can grab people and execute them, but most of the time it's sort of lost in, because you're running around after all these guys avoiding sort of bullets and stuff like that, and you don't really get to see the execution. You just basically press the execute button, and the next thing you know, you've dropped the body and then you're off again. So I don't know. Graphically, I'll put the footage up on screen and give myself some extra work. How about that? When you load the game, you get a really nice rendered sort of werewolf stood there, sort of breathing heavily while heavy metal goes over it, and you're like, whoa, that's badass. I like that. And then the next thing you see in the game are the human models, which look like they're 10 years old. They're quite awful.
I've recently gained access to the system that controls all the on-site oil pumps. That's our target. We tamper with the pumps and send dummy data to the system to make them think their oil field has run dry.
They lack animation and detail, and they just look awful. The werewolf stuff in game isn't as bad, but it's not great. We are paying like £35, so it's getting on for like half price of what a modern title would release for. So that does need to be taken into account. But graphically, this game isn't a looker by any stretch of the imagination. The combat, while fun, and you get a lot of blood everywhere, the blood has this really sort of plasticky shininess to it, and doesn't really look like blood, which is a shame, as quite often the entire room will be coated in it by the time you're done. It basically comes down to you going to a facility, doing a bit of sneaking, getting into an arena room, going around. There's reinforcement points all around the room, and you can sabotage those, so when reinforcements come in, they get an electrical shock which decreases their health, which is handy. I would have preferred to be able to shut them off entirely, but whatever. And then you can also try and stealth the guys in the room, and obviously if you stealth them, all the reinforcements don't come in. But it's so tedious, and I hate stealth. The first mission, it gives you an insta-fail stealth scenario, and I was like, oh god, really? Is it going to be like that? You're not going to let me just charge in a room and cut people up with my claws? No. Fortunately, the rest of the game is pretty much you stealth to thin down the numbers, get caught, and then you explode into wolf form and start slashing people. There is there is a skill tree. It's not a particularly in-depth one. A lot of the skills, like there's skills for the lupus form, which I never bothered with really, because I don't really use the lupus form very much at all. And it's just, I love the sound of it, like being a werewolf and sort of taking down this oil company that's invading your turf and doing horrible things to the planet and things like that. It sounds great, and you have the 3 werewolf forms, and that sounds amazing as well, but in actual practice it becomes very repetitive very quickly. And anytime you enter a room and there's bad guys in it, you're like, well, I could spend like 10 minutes sneaking around, shutting down sort of reinforced points, trying to stealthily take people out, or I could just activate my wolf form and murder everybody in about half the time, even including the reinforcements. I mean, it's not a particularly difficult game, and once you know the sort of tactics to take out the different types of bad guys, they don't really pose that much of a threat. They do have enemies with silver weaponry, so like silver bullets, and what that will do is it will basically take a chunk of your health bar off, just normally, but it will also cap your health bar, so you won't be able to generate the full health bar until the end of the fight. I think that's a nice mechanic that they've decided to implement, and you can get skills which combat that slightly, so you have ones where you're able to regenerate some of that health back, but it's not enough health that it ever caused me a problem. I'm never like stuck with just like a third of a bar because I've taken so much silver damage or anything like that. It's always like, yeah, I really don't care about like that 10% thing. Is you have an ability where you can heal yourself, and that's based on the rage and the more you kill. So if you're constantly killing, you can just constantly heal anyway. It's one of those games where I really wanted to like it more than I did. I mean, I watched one review, Game Ranks Before You Buy, and it was kind of like, oh, you might like it, you might not, depends. I'm like, well, I like World of Darkness, and Werewolf was one of the ones I never really got into and wanted to. But I mean, it's £35, so it's not like I'm spending 60. So, you know, give it a shot. If you know, outside of anything, I might get a video out of it. But no, I mean, this is, I wouldn't say it's a disappointment, because I was prepared perhaps not to like it. And it's not awful, but it's just not anything you haven't seen before, and some of the graphics are awful. The character models of like your fellow werewolves in human form at the camp are just some of the most awful I've seen, and some of them are like main characters. Like your daughter looks terrible. Yeah, so it's like, I really don't care if I save you, love, because you don't look like a human. And they really don't, and it's so disappointing, because the World of Darkness is such a great property, and you could do so much with the games, and we've not really seen it used to its full potential. I mean, they've had a few games. They've had like the Werewolf games, and lately we've had a spat of like interactive novels for the vampire property, and you know, for what they are, they're okay, you know, but you'd really like to see that sort of fully realised in a game. I know we've got Bloodlines 2 coming up, which I hope is good, but the second trailer, which was the most it's just the most atypical trailer I think I've ever seen, and the whole bad guy dancing to inappropriate jaunty music and all that, it was just like, oh man, that's turned me off. Like, the first trailer really sold me on it. So I don't know where that's gonna fall in my liking of it. As I said, that's a full 60 quid I'll have to spend on that one. So I probably will, just because of my weakness for the license. But no, I'm going in unsure. Hello? I mean, the amount of games that have been cancelled. I mean, this is like the third Werewolf game that was going to happen, and the first one to actually happen. And there may have actually been more than that. It was 3 or 4, I think. I think 2 or 3 were cancelled. Which is a nightmare. And then you had CCP, who picked up the World of Darkness license, and White Wolf, we're going to do tabletop games based on Eve, and CCP, it's CCP, yeah. We're going to do a World of Darkness online, which sounded amazing, where you'd be like a human that gets turned, but it wouldn't be a sort of single shot story. It would be based on your interactions with other players, and that would drive sort of your own personal story, which sounded amazing. And some of the tech demos they put out looked brilliant, and then they cancelled it. CCP have a unfortunate habit of that, where anything that isn't Eve license concerned, or even Dust. I mean, Dust was active for 3 years on the PS3, and that was it, gone. And the only thing they seem to be able to consistently support is Eve itself. So yeah, I mean, I really wanted to like the game. I like the music in the game. I'll give it that. I mean, I grew up like in the 80s, so like having some heavy metal in the game, that ticks my box basically. So I like the music, but I don't find the game offensive or anything, but it's just not one I'm going to be going, oh, I can't wait to get home and play that, you know. Like when you were a kid and you used to get instruction books with games that used to come in the post when post came in the morning and games had instruction books. That's how old I am. And I would take the instruction book to school with me and read through it avidly at lunchtime, and I'd be so hyped to get home and play the game, which at the time was like, yeah, they were what they were. They weren't particularly impressive, but at the time that was amazing. I think it was like Captain America versus Doctor Doom or something. It was Captain America Spy. It was like an old game where it was like a beat 'em up, and it was you work through the levels, and I was like reading all the character bios at lunch, and yeah, this ain't that. This really isn't that. I don't really give a crap about cohort or the characters that die during the game or any of that. I mean, I like being able to be a werewolf. That's cool, but I'd rather do that in a different game that was a bit more in depth. And I mean, when it was announced, it was supposed to be like, oh yeah, you've got to balance the violence, and because you have the rage thing going on. It's kind of like in Vampire when you lose your humanity and suffer frenzy and stuff like that. So you sort of become this uncontrollable monster, and it was all about balancing that, and deciding to try and solve problems, perhaps without violence, to try and manage your rage. And that's just really fallen by the wayside. It's just literally, as I say, it's an arena fighter as it stands at the moment that you can kind of thin out with stealth elements. Yeah, so it's not great. It is very middle of the road meh.
I knew I smelled it. So
I mean, the graphics are
whoever ordered this
in some areas completely terrible. I mean, I still can't get over the human faces. I mean, I say it was 10 years old, but to be honest, I think I saw better human faces 10 years ago than I do in this new release, which released on February 4th. So there's that. I really want to sit here and say it's great, buy it, because World of Darkness is awesome. But I just can't do that. I can't even lie to myself to that extent. It's not a great game. It's a meh game. And if I'm going to rate it, I'm going to rate it as a 4. I think that's one of the lowest ratings I've given a game. And it really upsets me because, as I say, like, Werewolf the Apocalypse is a franchise I really want to get into. And this just does nothing to further that desire. I mean, it's not reduced it in any way because I don't blame the franchise for a mediocre game. But it is a mediocre game. I mean, if you're a werewolf absolute nut and you're just going to be seeing the references to the sort of the worm and the three sort of deities in it, then, you might get more than I did out of this. But for me, it just became a pretty boring arena combat game. And not even being a werewolf could really solve that for me. And certainly, as I say, I know I keep harping on, but the human faces are just, they're shocking, to be honest, to have like a game release when it's not trying to be retro with faces like that and animations like that. The first time I saw a human model walk, I was like, why is he shit his pants? Because he was walking like he shit his pants, and I was just like, oh. The animations on the werewolves are a lot better, but it just seems that's where like 95% of the effort went, and none of the stuff surrounding it was really done in anything but like a workman-like fashion. I really hate that I've had to give it a 4, but I just can't even delude myself into giving it higher, no matter how much I would like to. It would be disingenuous and not what you guys, well, the few of you guys that come here regularly come here for. My honest opinion, there it is, 4 out of 10. Sorry lads, this ain't it. But like, don't give up on the damn license. The World of Darkness deserves a brilliant game. Hopefully Bloodlines 2 will fill that void, but as I say, I'm not entirely sure about that one anymore. The first trailer launched and we did a reaction video to it, which we hardly ever do. But, nah, this ain't it. Anyway guys, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like and comment down below. Tell me about, I don't know, let's go slightly weird. Tell me about your experiences with the World of Darkness, whether it's tabletop or whether you did any of the LARPing with Vampire. I actually have the rulebook for that because I thought I was buying the rulebook for the tabletop, and it turned out it was the LARPing book. Damn you, eBay! But yeah, let me know down below your experiences and, what you'd like to see out of the license, because I have a few ideas which, game developers, contact me. It's all good. I won't charge you much, just enough that I don't have to work for the rest of my life, you know? Nothing
My
much.
old friend.
There we go, take it easy, and I'll see you next
I
week.
have to